On this episode of See Indonesia, we're heading to the coral reef epicenter of the world, the Wakatobi Islands. Starting with Wangi-Wangi Island, where we'll get up close and personal with the region's diverse marine wildlife. Learn more about the island's unique cultures and ethnic groups. And of course, go diving in arguably one of the greatest dive spots in the world.
Come see the beauty, only on See Indonesia.
We are now visiting one of the most beautiful places in all of Indonesia, and perhaps even the world. The Wakatobi Islands in southeastern Sulawesi. This place is considered a diver's paradise, as being located within the Coral Triangle makes Wakatobi home to hundreds upon hundreds of different species of coral. Of course, Wakatobi's beauty isn't limited to what lies underneath its waters, but it's definitely a good place to start.
Now, Wakatobi is made out of hundreds of islands, but there are four main islands, the biggest ones, and they are what make up the name, Wakatobi. And we are in first of the major islands, that is Wangi-Wangi, and we are off to find some dolphins. It's going to be great to see them out there in their natural habitat in the wild, just roaming free where they should be, and couple that with the beautiful Wakatobi morning, the sun out, skies are clear.
We begin our adventures in the waters off the western coast of Wangi-Wangi Island, the Wa in the Wakatobi name, and the Regency's capital. Even just glancing to the sides of the boat, I could see just how clear and pristine the waters of Wakatobi are. And this all has to do with the abundance of coral reefs. Coral reefs act as a barrier that breaks up moving water. The resulting calmer waters is then free from any sediments and nutrients, which gives the water the pristine and clear appearance. The waters of Wakatobi are filled with marine life, but that doesn't make it any easier to find them. Dolphins move fast and in large groups, so if any of them ever pop up, they'd be pretty hard to miss. Well, that's the theory anyway, but after more than an hour of scouring the seas, it seems like we'll be going home empty-handed. That is, until...
Look at that. It's a whole school of dolphins. It took us a long while, to be honest, baking in the morning sun to find them, but there they are. They're right there. That's just nature basically. It's unpredictable. You know, out here there's no schedules, no feeding sessions, no petting sessions. You know, you just find them where they are. Where they belong, the natural habitat.
Of course, to truly see the full Wakatobi experience, there's no other way to go but down. There's just one problem. I don't know how to scuba dive. In which case, for me, this will be a trial by fire. Or water, I suppose.
First time for everything, right? When in Wakatobi, do as the Wakatobians do. I mean, again, it is my first time, but it's a shame to go all this way to probably the greatest dive place in the entire world and not actually dive. So this one's for the culture.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm quaking in my boots right now. Diving to me is pretty darn scary. Just think about it. You're in there in the bottomless pit that is the ocean, and anxiety creeps into your mind like, what if your equipment breaks? Experienced divers would tell you to stay calm in such scenarios, but I know that on the first sign of trouble, I'm gonna start panicking. But thankfully, Wakatobi does have some highly certified dive masters that will guide you on your first journey. And so, after a good deal of prep and safety briefings, all there left to do is dive. Once I was down there, all I gotta say is, learning to dive was definitely the right call. As beautiful as the underwater world is, scuba diving does take a toll on your body, and your experience might not be as pleasant if you don't take the time to adjust to the undersea pressure. And I had to learn that the hard way, as my ears failed to equalize multiple times, causing some mild discomfort. So after a while, I had to resurface.
Okay, not gonna lie, that was a teensy bit terrifying. But after you get over the innate and very human fear of drowning, you're treated to one heck of a view. It's really different out there. It's like nothing you've ever seen. Wakatobi truly lives up to its name as the best, or one of the best, dive spots in the entire world.
Unlike me, Wakatobi is home to some of the world's best natural divers. People who practically live on the sea. And coming up next, we'll tag along with some of them, joining them for a quick hunting trip and learn a little more about the lives of the sea nomads. So, stick around.
Beauty, only on See Indonesia. Beauty, only on See Indonesia.
In Wakatobi, swimming is second nature. People here are natural swimmers by necessity. The water is everywhere, and water is where your fortune lies. Whether you're a fisherman or a scuba instructor, you'll need to know how to traverse the deep. But one ethnic group sits high above the rest in terms of their skills in swimming and diving, and that is the nomadic sea people, known as the Bajo.
So it is quite early in the morning. This is why the tides are still low. We have to push this boat all the way to the open shore. Now, we're planning to meet a couple of native Bajo people out there in the open sea. They'll show us their hunting ways, and these are really good swimmers, like one of the best. They're actually built different, so I want to see if I can actually learn a thing or two. Obviously I wouldn't be able to expand my lungs the way they do.
The Bajo people have lived on the sea for more than 1,000 years, although nowadays some Bajo tribes have chosen to settle on stilt houses built off the coast of nearby islands. Wakatobi is home to several of these settlements. But even those of the Bajo who've long since left the nomadic ways of their ancestors are still just as adept as diving as their nomadic brothers and sisters. These guys can easily free dive to depths of more than 70 meters, and they're able to hold their breaths for more than 5 minutes. And of course, all this is done for one purpose, and that is to catch a meal. So, as we reached the open sea, I got down to my swimming trunks and went in for a swim. Not long after, the guys quickly managed to spear several different fish. Meanwhile, I was struggling to swim against the current. They were at least kind enough to let me hold one of their catch, so that was nice. After a few more minutes of snorkeling and enjoying the underwater sights, we headed back to the nearby Bajo village to cook up some traditional Bajo food.
There's lots of things here that you'd find everywhere else, but one thing that I want to focus more on is actually this. They call this prangi. I think the equivalent that most people would know it as is probably ceviche, because it's basically the same concept. It's raw fish cut up and marinated in lime juice. So it's not cooked, but it's cooked in a different way, sort of. This is survival food. This is stuff their ancestors would eat when they still lived on boats and they couldn't cook. And so they just make this, I gotta say, I am pretty nervous about eating raw fish, but it's for the culture. It's actually pretty good. You can definitely taste the freshness, and the lime really cuts through it, so it doesn't taste fishy, but it tastes like a fishy, but it's in a good way.
After eating our way through a buffet of seafood, I took a stroll around the village alongside our guide and village local, Mr. Albar. The Bajo, despite existing for almost 1,000 years, don't keep many written historical records, and so I wanted to learn more about the history and lives of these people, starting with how it all began.
Ya, itu kami sebenarnya itu ada dua versi sih yang menurut kepercayaan hari ini. Ya, kami ada yang bilang dari Makassar, ya, dari Bone itu, dan kami juga ada yang bilang dari Filipina. Tapi yang paling mendekat sejarahnya itu cerita rakyatnya itu dari Makassar tadi, karena seorang Nono Bajo itu adalah nenek moyang kami yang terdampar di atas permukaan laut, didapat sama orang-orang Makassar dulu sehingga diangkat menjadi raja. Akhirnya sampai kami terpencar itu karena cucu-cucunya anak putri dulu itu hilang, dihanyut sama arus di sungai, sehingga diperintahlah para panglima ini untuk mencari si putri ini. Kalau mereka belum dapat, jangan ada kembali ke istana.
Ya, pokoknya harus dapat.
Harus dapat. Nah, akhirnya mungkin tidak didapat sehingga kami terpencar di belahan bumi.
Begitu.
Ya, ada di Madagaskar, ada di Jepang, ada di Australia. Yang paling banyak kita di Indonesia.
The Bajo tribes may be scattered across many countries, But one thing that unites them is their proximity to the sea, as well as their uncanny swimming abilities, a skill which is developed from as early as 2 years old.
Kami sebagai orang tua ini, tanggung jawab kami orang tua Bajo ini memang kami belum melepas anak-anak kami kecuali mereka sudah tahu berenang. Ya caranya itu kami berenang duluan jauh-jauh baru suruh dia menyelam berenang ke kami, dan begitu misalkan dia sudah bisa berenang kami tangkap. Misalkan 10 meter, oke coba tes 10 meter. Kalau sudah bisa berarti kami sudah anggap sudah bisa.
The Bajo people are truly one of the most unique ethnic groups I've met so far. And even within Wakatobi, there are several different settlements with varying degrees of isolation from the modern world. And I've got a feeling I'll be running into these guys again pretty soon. But the unique cultures of Wakatobi aren't just on the water, but on dry land as well. After the break, we'll be taking a look at a historic fortress, home to the oldest mosque in Wakatobi, as well as take a dip in the pools of a freshwater cave. Don't go anywhere.
Beauty, only on See Indonesia. Beauty, only on See Indonesia.
It's impossible to talk about Wakatobi without also acknowledging the legacy of the kingdom that came before it. That is, the kingdom and eventually sultanate of Buton. Established as a constitutional monarchy in the early 14th century, the kingdom of Buton was a maritime powerhouse in eastern Indonesia. Being part of a bustling trade route made the kingdom a target for pirates, and so for protection, they built fortresses in the hills of their islands. Fortresses which still exist to this day.
The majority of the population in the Wakatobi Islands is majority Muslim. And where we're at right now might just be where it all started. Now right behind me is the final gate to the innermost sanctum of the Lia Fortress. And inside there is a whole lot of stories regarding how Islam spread in the many islands in the Wakatobi region. So let's go inside and see what it's all about.
The Lia Fortress is located in the tourism village of Lia Togo, which is famous for its historical sites, local customs, and traditional woven fabrics. For my visit, I was greeted with the local tour guides, who also lent me the traditional fabrics to be worn while visiting the various historical sites. The most notable of which is the oldest mosque in Wakatobi, the Mubarak Mosque, built in 1546. Nearby the mosque, you'll find a large structure with walls built from coral rocks, a building material used for all the walls of the fortress. This structure was the original baruga of the village, which is essentially a village hall where gatherings can take place to discuss current issues pertaining to the village. The baruga has since been replaced with a newer one, built out of wood, complete with a roof, but the old one continues to be preserved in its original state. After a short tour, we visited the house of a local weaver to learn more about the region's traditional fabric.
Ini namanya leda dua buri. Ini untuk perempuan karena motifnya horizontal. Nah, kalau untuk pengerjainnya ini, kalau umpamanya ibunya nggak ada aktivitas ke kebun, itu bisa 2 minggu selesai. Tapi kalau umpamanya masih ke kebun, bisa sebulan baru selesai satu sarung.
Itu seperti yang dipakai kakak?
Iya.
Kalau di sini di desa Lia Togo sekarang ada berapa orang yang masih menenun seperti ini?
Kalau untuk keseluruhan yang menenun itu kurang lebih 15. Rata-rata di dusun sini itu ibu-ibunya penenun.
Aside from sarongs, these traditional fabrics are also now made into various different types of souvenirs, from tote bags to bucket hats. There's one more spot that my guide recommends me to check out before I finish my visit to Liatogo, and that's the Kohondao Cave Springs, located around 300 meters from the village. Down here lies a freshwater spring used by the locals for drinking and cleaning. But that's not the main attraction for us, because supposedly there are some therapy fish in the ponds down below which will eat up your dead skin cells. So I'm eager to check that out.
We're at this watering hole now. The water's a bit receded, swimming because it's a bit low tide. But thankfully, there's still this one that's pretty decently high in terms of the water level. So if you look at it now, there's no the therapy fish, the ones that clean your feet, they're not there yet. But my guide tells me if I just put my feet in there, eventually the fish will come. So let's put that to the test.
Admittedly, I was skeptical at first, as there didn't seem to be any fish visible from where I was standing. But not too long after I dipped my feet in, one by one they showed up to nibble at my feet.
Well, sure enough, they came. Now, I had one of these before, though it was in the mall. So doing it here in its natural habitat, that feels a lot better.
Wakatobi's got a lot of these types of freshwater caves around, and would it surprise you that the locals use these caves for a lot more than just drinking water and washing their laundry? Well, after my little fishy therapy session, I headed to another one of these freshwater caves that's popular amongst the locals as well as tourists.
So let's say you spent the entire day out in the Wangi-Wangi sun, scorching hot, and you want to cool down, but you don't want to go to the sea. Well, maybe fancy a dip in some freshwater caves, which is something the locals like to do also. Right here at Kontamale Cave, you can find very pristine, very refreshing freshwater caves that you can dive in, take a little dip, just freshen up after a really hot day. So I had a pretty hot day myself, so let's go ahead and take a dip.
As you can see, this place is a local staple. School kids frequent these caves after school to refresh and wash up after an undoubtedly sweaty day. From above, it looks as if these are several separate pools. However, diving down shows you that all the pools are connected via small underwater caves, which, if you're as savvy as these kids, you can swim from one pool to another with relative ease. I'm not at the level these kids are at, but jumping in and making a splash, I can do that just fine.
Did you see that? That kid's probably like 10, 8 years old. They raise them different here in Wakatobi. These kids are diving in caves, they're swimming, they're jumping off cliffs like it ain't no thing. I mean, that's the essence of being different. I want to chill though. I'm not gonna do all that. I'm fine where I'm at. I like my limbs where they are. I'm gonna leave the cave diving to professionals. Professionals being 10-year-old kids.
That's one island down and 3 more to go. But honestly, you can't go wrong with Wakatobi. There's so much to see and so much to do here. and we've only visited one island. So I can't wait to see what else Wakatobi has in store.